At the outset, I would like to thank Dr. Satyan Deka for giving me this opportunity to be here today. Though post-traumatic endophthalmitis is rare, but it's a devastating complication of open globe injuries. And overall, the visual prognosis and outcome of these traumatic endophthalmitis is worse than post-operative endophthalmitis. And the visual outcome depends on the extent of the tissue damage as well as the virulence of the infecting organism. Traumatic endophthalmitis accounts for almost 25 to 30, one-third of all cases of endophthalmitis, and the risk increases in the presence of an intraocular foreign body. And in an open globe injury with an intraocular foreign body, it ranges from 3.8 to 4 to as much as 48%. And in the absence of an intraocular foreign body, it is less. It is about 3.1 to 12%. Coming to the risk factors, retained intraocular foreign body. If it is a non-metallic intraocular foreign body, it may have a higher risk because high velocity intraocular foreign bodies, they carry a lesser risk because they self-sterilize due to the heat. And if there is a lens rupture, the risk is more. If the delayed timing of the primary repair, especially more than 24 hours, large wound size of more than 4 millimeter, if the location of the wound is posterior with scleral lacerations, ocular tissue prolapse, placement of primary intraocular lens, and it also depends on whether it's from an urban or rural setting. In the rural settings, it is more common because of associated vegetative matter. Clinical features, they will usually come with an extreme pain, with hypopyon and vitritis, which indicate endophthalmitis, and you should prove it's not endophthalmitis if you want to come to a conclusion of inflammation. And as I already told you, delayed repair, dirty wound, lens capsule breach, and intraocular foreign body carry a high risk. Usually the diagnosis immediately after a globe rupture is difficult because of the trauma-induced inflammation and also the associated disruption of ocular structures. But one should keep it in mind when there is pain, decreased vision, photophobia and tearing, and usually the pain is out of proportion to the degree of injury. They are also associated with lid edema, chemosis, corneal edema. AC is filled with fibrin, hypopyon, vitritis, retinitis, and also periphlebitis. Increasing inflammation and pain with vitritis should prompt you should have endophthalmitis as the first diagnosis. Coming to the organisms, several pathogens have been implicated as causative agents in endophthalmitis in following trauma, and they vary like 50% were gram positive, 33% are gram negative, and 16% are usually fungi. Gram positive, they account for almost 50%. Staph epidermidis is the most common, followed by Staph aureus, Streptococcus pneumoniae, Bacillus, which is associated with intraocular foreign bodies and usually carry a poor visual prognosis. Also, Clostridium carries a very poor visual prognosis, and it can also be a Propionibacter magnis. Gram negative, it's less common than gram positive, and usually it is Pseudomonas, where the incidence varies to as high as 23%. Other gram negative organisms are Proteus, Mirabilis, Streptococcus, and Actinobacter. Also, usually nocardia, you should have it in mind when it's associated with soil contamination. It's all rare, but if it is a nocardia, you can make out the anti-segment nodules as you see here and clumps of exudates, and this usually carries a very poor prognosis. Bacillus, it's a fulminant infection leading to total corneal infiltrates as you see, and also it's associated with phthisis bulbi. It can go in for phthisis bulbi within 2 to 3 days. Fungal endophthalmitis is less common, accounting for almost close to 16%. Candida, amongst them, Candida albicans is the most common. Others are Aspergillus and Fusarium. Usually, these fungal endophthalmitis are associated with a delayed onset of inflammation after the injury, and the mean onset of symptoms can be is around 2.8 weeks. And clinically, they usually are fairly quite high with minor discomforts. It's slowly progressive, and you can have intraocular inflammation and also the presence of an inflammatory mass in the vitreous or in the anterior chamber, wherein usually called a snowball or a string of pearls. You should have fungal endophthalmitis in your mind. Whenever you have a suspicion of endophthalmitis, the eye should always be evaluated for the presence of an intraocular foreign body. You can take a plain X-ray or a CT scan of the orbit. The CT scan is usually reveals small objects because it has a cut width of 1 millimeter. MRI is not recommended unless it is certain that it's not ferromagnetic. B-scan, it's helpful for radiolucent foreign bodies such as glass or plastic, but one should have extreme caution if there is a suspicion of open globe, because you should not apply much of a pressure. Also, B-scan helps us to evaluate vitritis and whether it's associated with a traction RD as you see on your right or not. In all cases of endophthalmitis, suspected endophthalmitis, fluid samples should be sent for cultures and stains both from the anterior chamber and as well as the vitreous. And for bacterial, you can do a gram stain and culture on blood or chocolate agar, thioglycolate broth. It should be performed. And for fungal, you should by culturing on Sabron's dextrose or a KOH preparation. This is, and it should be done as early as possible, even before instilling any topical antibiotics. You take an anterior from the anterior chamber and then from the posterior chamber. Though this was done in the evening and late in the night, but usually to collect a posterior segment sample, it is better to use a cutter, because if you are using a needle and removing the vitreous, then you are producing unnecessary traction. Then you can send it for culture, or in immunodiagnostics or a conventional PCR. And right now you also have Exciton, which is available now. And the good thing about Exciton is you get your results fairly early than a PCR. And they have a variety of panels, endophthalmitis panel available right now for gram positive, gram negative, and fungi. The advantage is you need to send a single sample. It's a very single test, and it takes hardly 7 hours for processing. So in all cases of suspected endophthalmitis, you take both a sample from the anterior chamber and vitreous, and also rule out an intraocular foreign body, and then you obtain a culture and sensitivity report. And even before that, you can go in for broad spectrum intravitreal antibiotics. And after the culture and sensitivity report, if there is no improvement, then you can go for a repeat intravitreal injection based on the culture and sensitivity report. And if it is clinically worsening still, then you can go ahead and do an vitrectomy. So the vitrectomy helps that you get a larger sample, as well as you also debulk the infected material. So the treatment guidance, initial treatment is based on clinical findings and it is empirical. It includes intravitreal antibiotic injection and then systemic antibiotics and topical. Those systemic antibiotics is controversial. Directly injecting antibiotics into the globe affords highest drug concentration in the vitreous humor, and once culture results are available, then you can reassess the drug regimen and treatment can be modified. Normally we use intravitreal vancomycin and cephalosporin because it covers both gram positive and gram negative, and also bacillus and clostridium in intraocular foreign body. Coming to the specific treatment, it differs for different organisms, as you see here. Systemic therapy because there's a breach in the blood retinal barrier in traumatized eyes. Systemic antibiotics are important in traumatic endophthalmitis. You can give IV vancomycin and IV ceftazidime. Alternatively, you can also go in for ciprofloxacin tablets or levofloxacin tablets and analgesics. Topically, you can also use fortified topical antibiotics while you await your culture results, like vancomycin and ceftazidime. Alternative regimen can be a topical 0.3% moxifloxacin with fortified tobramycin. Steroid therapy is highly controversial, though it has the benefits that it can control inflammation and infection-related tissue injury. And also, but the possibility of suppressing infection is also there, and usage depends on your culture and sensitivity. It is recommended topically if you can use predacetate or intravitreal dexamethasone if your KOH is negative. So in all intraocular foreign body cases, the definitive treatment is vitrectomy, removal of intraocular foreign body. At the same time, you send specimens for culture and sensitivity, and you can use intravitreal plus systemic antibiotic therapy. And the immunization status against tetanus should be evaluated. As I already told you, vitrectomy has the advantage of removing of the infecting organism and their toxins, removal of all the vitreous membranes so that you can prevent tractional retinal detachment, restoration of media clarity, and also you tend to rapidly and completely sterilize the vitreous cavity and provision of adequate material for culture. But it also carries the disadvantages that you can cause retinal detachment because of the changes in vitreous and retina due to surgery. Because in any case of traumatic endophthalmitis, the retina is already inflamed, so you should expect a fragile and necrotic retina. And if you are planning for a core vitrectomy, you remove as much of vitreous as possible, but you should not be over enthusiastic. The basic idea is to remove as much as possible. So you perform a core vitrectomy, and as I already told you, periphery should not be attacked. At least half of the vitreous volume should be reduced. No attempt at posterior vitreous separation in the case where you can't see in the case of traumatic endophthalmitis. Use low suction, photocoagulation if needed for retinal tears, and fluid gas exchange. But as of now, there's no large randomized study with long follow-up in our Indian context. So prompt wound closure with immediate systemic antibiotics on presentation, then you give oral antibiotics and intravitreal antibiotics in high-risk cases. So to conclude, prompt wound closure and early systemic antibiotics may be the best approach to prevent endophthalmitis. Aggressive treatment with systemic antibiotics, appropriate intravitreal antibiotics, and timely vitrectomy go a long way in saving the eye. And ophthalmologists should always have a high index of suspicion of infection in an already traumatized, inflamed eye. And final visual outcome depends on multiple factors, including the extent of tissue damage and the virulence of organism. Thank you.